Like for us to look.
And we're going to call today's meeting to order. We have no remote participation. However, we do have disposition of 2 months of meetings, minutes. So, anybody? You do a month? Yeah, let's do the February, please. February. Yes, okay, well, with February. I'll move to approve the minutes of the February 23rd, 2026 meeting. All in favor? Aye. Okay, good. Then March. I'll move to March 23rd, 2026 meeting of the Board of Trustees. Anybody, any comments or anything? Okay. Well, all in favor? Aye. Okay, good. I've had that. Any announcements or public comments?
I have an announcement to make, which is just to inform the board that Siri Russell had to step down from her duties as a City of Charlottesville trustee. Just an update there that City Council will be naming a new trustee to the Library Board on May 18th, which is the same date as your next meeting. So you won't get a ninth member until June. That would be the first date that they would be available. You want to check and see if anybody online would like to make public comment at this time?
Yeah, there's a couple of people. If you'd like to make a public comment, use the raise hand.
Zoom raise hand.
Raise your hand. Feature.
None at this time.
None at this time. Okay. Continuing education.
None at this time.
None at this time.
I will mention that Yulita Ellis will be available after the meeting today to give a tour to any of the trustees that are interested in getting a tour of the Nelson Memorial.
We'll move to the policy committee reports.
Okay, the policy committee report met today and discussed a group of sort of thematically related policies related to board governance. And we're working towards consolidating some of those into a single policy, and in one case, consolidate with a different existing policy. And today we just kind of came up with an overall approach. Next month, the policy committee will be looking at some language based on bullet points that we came up with today, and that may or may not be ready to surface at the board meeting 2 months from now. So I already know what month it is right now, but that would be June, I think, yeah, when you might see the proposal coming.
5-year plan committee report.
Okay, so we met, was it last week? It was last week. I'm with you, I'm not sure what month it is yet. And went through the goals, strategies, and objectives of the strategic implementation plan, and went through and figured out what had been accomplished, and what was still in process and which dates needed to move. And those are all in your attached edits in brown, the 414 meeting. You don't want to look at those at your leisure, but I don't think we're going to go through every single one today. Again, since the committee already did that. Were we going to look at our mission statement as well, David?
Yeah, I think there's a separate
later, it's a new business. Okay. Yeah. But if anyone has any questions, we're happy to answer.
One question. on page, this is true. On page 7, when it says we cultivate a welcoming environment for community engagement. And it says JMRL with the stakeholders to provide modern, accessible, and secure spaces. Who are the other stakeholders? that are being referred to? Is that the time anyway? I was just curious.
I don't believe that's been specifically defined. You're talking about what's in red there on page 12 of the handouts. Yeah, I think the intention at the time, and this is when this plan was written, was that the stakeholders were the users of the library, the board and library staff, and then also the government entities that create and maintain.
So a broad group.
Yeah, I mean, everybody who has a stake in the library, which is effectively everybody.
Right. I mean, it could say work with the public, or I guess it should be broader or more specific. It's just.
I think it was made broadly because the idea was that we were gonna work within and with, and outside.
Yeah.
So we wanted all opinions and also all suggestions. And probably that went back to the survey that we did.
Yeah, and I think when I read this, it's talking about modern, accessible, and secure spaces. We're talking about buildings that aren't owned by JMRL for the most part. So a big part of that stakeholder, thinking about the Central Library renovation project, it's Charlottesville and Albemarle, but then it's also all the users of the library and every other, the Friends of Downtown Charlottesville and the Friends of the Library and every other community organization that impacted by that service. I think it was purposely kept broad, but if you have thoughts on specifying or adding some detail there, this is.
Even a definition of who stakeholders are, that could be.
Sure. Such as.
Yes. I don't know what color that would be. We're running out of colors for this.
So this,
For the-
the review was of the staff implementation plan, which is a staff procedural document. So all the changes that are in here will be made after the board's had a chance to look at it today. So that will just be a change to that document that then.
We'll take out the 414
Yeah.
and just make it 2026.
Other questions? Maybe we're in old business already.
I'm sorry, I
Yes.
do have a question.
Okay.
So, in the past, several years ago, there was a separate technology plan, and I know that's been folded in here. But also, we've been talking in the technology board committee about sort of a timeline, and, we've been refining, there's been some planning happening there as well. How does that, and I think and I know we're meeting soon, and I think the goal is after the upcoming meeting in a couple of weeks, there would at some point be a board presentation of this. Maybe you can recapitulate for me what this current effort is that's happening through the board technology committee, and how does it interact with this strategic implementation plan? And do they get folded and merged at some point, or are they two parallel efforts?
Yeah, my understanding of what the technology committee has been working on and will continue to work on next week is a goal that was provided to me by the library board as one of the annual goals for the library director. And it was to provide loosely to provide a timeline of work on JMRL's web presence. So not technology as a whole, but specifically about web page and web offerings. So there was a plan that was a draft of a plan presented to the technology committee earlier this year. There's some revisions happening to that. The technology committee will review them again. And then as the library director, my evaluation is next month. I'll need to present those to the board to say, here's how I've met that goal. So it's not, I think there's a broader goal about web presence in the strategic implementation plan. And this is not the entirety of the strategic implementation plan. This is only what was discussed at the meeting last week. So they were, I think, ongoing objectives and objectives that had deliverables in fiscal year 25 and 26. But those are, it's kind of the technology committee is working on the stuff that the staff is doing in order to meet whatever the broad goal.
Okay, so I'm seeing, and part of just in the preview, one, I think, really useful thing that's happening within the technology committee is sort of an inventory of what are all the pieces and parts of our web presence and which need to be maintained and renewed and timelines for all that. So, and I think that's helpful. I think that's a useful effort. I guess it would if I try and correlate it here, I'm looking at page 9 of the handouts for the plan where it says continue to improve the JMRL website and catalog experience. And I guess this would be part of that.
Yeah, that's the one I was referring to.
Yeah.
The specific
Okay. And
objective.
is there any purpose to, and certainly I would say what you just described fits under this for sure. Is there any use or purpose to cross-referencing, or maybe it just doesn't need to, maybe it's.
So this particular, I have to look back at the key objective. It's purple. It's an objective. This particular objective is meant to keep it on staff's forefront to keep this work in front of staff, basically. Like this is an annual goal. So, I don't consider that. So we present this plan to the technology committee. The full board talks about it. It gets discussed by the board. There are some outcomes there, like we need to do X, Y, and Z in the next few years or whatnot. I don't think that means that this is achieved. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that, so I think they're separate is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And also, I think this document that I'm referring to has a lot of maintenance aspects of it too, or this is just improvement. Okay.
Also, it
Fair
says annually, so I think it's like
Yeah.
the never ending
Yeah.
quest, and also the evaluation of, well, has it improved?
Right.
Hopefully there's a continual.
Yeah, what have we seen different from this year to last year?
Right.
Okay, fair enough. Just trying to kind of fit those in relation together in my mind, but I think they're both useful efforts for sure. Yeah. Any other questions?
Moving to old business. Please, what is that budget update?
Okay, just to keep the board in the loop on what's happening. So after the board's meeting last month, in which we described a reduction in requested budgets for Green, Louisa, and Nelson based on the fact that the part-time regional position was not going to make it through the budgeting cycle, that's been communicated to our partners there. Charlottesville and Albemarle have adopted their fiscal year 27 budgets. Those are locked in for next year, and their CIPs, which means that funding is right now available for the architecture and engineering project at the Central Library starting this upcoming fiscal year. Louisa County is voting tonight to finalize their budget for next year. Green upcoming on May 12th and Nelson on June 9th. So, things are moving along. Nothing has changed about JMRL's budgeting since the information that I last shared with you last month. JMRL's Budget and Finance Committee is meeting Wednesday this week to discuss a fiscal year 27 equipment budget to propose to the board. So the committee will discuss that and then present some information to the board at the next meeting. We're still on track for the board to vote for an adopted budget at the June 22nd meeting.
Anybody had questions for me?
Do I plan to be at the meeting tonight if I can make it back there, or
Is the other meeting on Wednesday?
no, tonight?
Oh, the board meeting? No, I don't believe that that there's going to be any comment. I think that they have gone through their process and their budget is pretty much set, including the funding that we would have with them. So we're in good shape. Yeah.
Okay, second reading and potential vote on JMRL policy 2.9.
Okay, so if I recall correctly, we did a first reading of this 2 months ago. And we took a fairly detailed document. So we have the,
I think we have this on.
Oh, the original, I can bring the
Oh, wait.
original.
Oh, no, I found it. So many things.
I don't.
yeah, we have,
All red.
the red is the after, is the rewrite, basically. And sometimes there will be a black version, which would be the current, and I think that's what
Page
we
14.
get on the screen.
For anyone who's
What's on the screen
looking.
now is current. Um,
Oh, that's
Mm.
short.
was there more, what's some,
This is the current, yeah, it's about 5 paragraphs there.
So this was, discussed with the, volunteer coordinator. And we wanted to put, as always, we're trying to provide guidance for staff, things we want you to make sure you accomplish. We want to provide information for the public. If you want to be a volunteer, here are the parameters for that. And we're trying to strike a balance between those two things, and also not being too prescriptive for things that can be part of staff. So I would say a lot of this really is aimed at educating the members of the public who might want to be volunteers. Here would be the, you're gonna be a volunteer, we're handing you this, and these are the high level guidance. But there is also a reference here to a volunteer handbook. And I think there are adult and teen versions of that. I think they may not be called the exact same thing. But that's one thing this policy requires, that we will have some sort of standardized, staff will develop a standardized handbook that we go to all volunteers. And the other thing that I'm recalling came out of this is that there's a concept of interns who are generally, who have kind of different responsibilities than volunteers. And I think the policy committee is going to look at separating that into its own policy, so that we can talk about more of the details of the scope involved with interns versus volunteers. Intern is sort of a pseudo staff, whereas volunteers is a helper. So I don't think I'm going to read every word, because we did do that in the first reading, but open for questions or discussions.
Is the first sentence supposed to be libraries across the country or across the county?
I think it's supposed to be country.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We have 5 counties, so it'd have to be.
Looking at the scope, library volunteers are important everywhere.
Yeah, and Peter, that was word for word from the, so I don't think anybody's married to that language. It was what was in the former.
So that's just saying library volunteers in general, not our library volunteers.
Oh, right, I see, right. Our library volunteers are probably not working in libraries across the country. Some of them might be.
When they're on vacation, they work everywhere.
Take a vacation to work somewhere else.
Exactly.
This is a second reading.
Do we need some kind of decision about the manuals or the handbooks, or those are already written and?
They're already in place.
Okay.
So those, by the policy, those are staff documents
Okay.
that we don't approve.
I was just wondering about the wording, because you were mentioning there was like a teen one and then an adult one.
So we're basically doing two things. As a board, we're saying, staff, you need to create and maintain those documents.
Okay.
And we're saying, public, these documents exist, and they'll be those will be your detailed guidance if you're going to be an adult or a teen volunteer.
Okay. Great.
So yes, if we thought it was important, we could ask David to show us those.
Sure.
No, I thought you had mentioned that they might be still in process, and I didn't know whether the wording is final.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that either.
They exist. Both of those
Okay.
documents exist.
Are they long-standing, or they're just newly revised or anything like that?
I would have to go check on that. I'm not sure.
My recollection is the teen, because this is 3 or 4 months ago when we were talking about this, the teen was being revised was being revised at the time, but I bet it's done by now.
Considering that our definition of an adult keeps changing in our different policies, I would think that it might be.
We might have worked through all of those.
Settled that fine.
We might be done with those.
16.
Okay, so any potential vote happens when in new business?
I think it happens right now.
Right here now, okay. Oh, yeah, that's it.
Potential.
Yeah, okay.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make the motion that this be approved as written.
2.9 volunteers.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It has passed. Now we have a potential vote on the fiscal year 27 schedule closing.
So as usual, I think I probably muddied the waters on this. We've been talking about it for a few months now, and there was some discussion about how to handle the proliferation of Saturday holidays, and the board in, I think, February told me to take it back to library staff. I took it to the library managers and discussed, and we couldn't come up with a better way of doing it than we have done it. So what is being offered here is the traditional way that the library has handled Saturday holidays, which is to be closed that Saturday for the staff that were intended to work that day. It's their holiday. They get the day off. For the staff that were already off that day because they worked Monday through Friday, they get a comp day to be used. So the only difference then between this version and kind of how we've done this in the past is the suggestion that the library close even earlier on the day before Thanksgiving. So I think that's the only thing for the board to discuss at this point, if there are thoughts on that. And if you recall, JMRL has, in my 20 plus years, always closed at 5 o'clock on that day, although multiple branches are open till 9. So the last year, 4 of 5 of JMRL's jurisdictional partners closed at noon, which is kind of a new thing. So the proposal here would be to close the library at noon on the day before Thanksgiving, but there's no way to do that without giving staff an extra paid half day. You know, we can close at 5 and everybody can kind of work their full day that day. They just shift their schedule a little bit. So this would be adding a half day holiday for library staff, going from 13 paid holidays to 13 and a half.
And is that the same dynamic where if somebody wasn't actually scheduled that day, they're adding
They
it?
would get for the
Across the
day.
Yeah, across the system.
Yes, across JMRL.
How does that figure into the budget with the, you know, having all of these other paid half days?
Well, the staff are paid for that time, so it's budgeted for as part of their personnel costs.
We're going to close at noon. Any other questions? Any about this?
And the Sunday openings that's
Well,
typically what we do.
Yeah, it's basically it's just for the central library, and it's open during the school year, closed during the summer. So it's always starts the Sunday hours the Sunday after Labor Day and finishes them the Sunday before Memorial Day weekend. So in fact, Central's only got a few more Sunday hours before they're closed for the summer.
On Sunday.
On Sunday.
On Sunday. Do I hear a motion on this one?
I'll move that we approve the 2026-2027 schedule of library closings as presented today.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? It passes. Yeah, right along.
Yeah.
2 months of business. Like the clip.
Oh, gosh.
Don't worry, I'll slow it down.
New business, Virginia Commission for the Arts.
Okay, so just some background here. You've seen a very similar motion pretty recently. This is a series of grants that Megan Smee, the head of Children's Services at JMRL, has been writing with the Virginia Commission for the Arts. At this point, she has applied for 3 separate grants here, totaling $5,800. 2 of the 3 have been approved by the VCA, so we're fully expecting this full amount of these. So she sent me some information to share with you all. JMRL's applied for 3 VCA Virginia touring grants in the amounts of $1,300, $1,500, and $3,000. 2 of those 3 have been awarded. High hopes for the 3rd. So the Virginia touring grant helps ensure that Virginians have access to dynamic and engaging performances. These grants support in-state touring by reimbursing eligible organizations up to 50% of the performance fees when showcasing artists from the VCA touring artist roster. This longstanding program broadens the reach of the arts and creates new opportunities for Virginia artists, arts organizations, and audiences throughout the state. So JMRL has booked 3 artists that we're seeking this funding for: Jeffrey Marsh, the Barefoot Puppet Theater, and Tyrone Travis, to perform at each JMRL branch during the Summer Performer Series. Jeff Marsh engages audience with unique circus stunts, juggling, close-up magic, and family-friendly comedy. Barefoot Puppet Theater performs original award-winning puppet shows that are interactive, imaginative, and heartwarming, perfect for audiences young and old. And Uncle Tyrone Travis combines ventriloquism, DJing, puppeteering, and comedy to help instill the importance of reading and self-belief. So, as per JMRL's policy, the board has to have a motion to accept any grant funding. And here's an example of a motion.
And so all of these 3 acts will be touring at each one of the.
Yeah, I believe they're in all 8 library locations for the big summer performance. Usually in the summertime, the regional performances that are 1 day a week at each branch.
I'll make the motion that I move that JMRL accept the Virginia Commission for the Arts Virginia Touring Grants allocation of up to $5,800 and authorize the expenditure of that funding for the support of library services.
All in favor? Opposed? It passes. When do we expect that?
Well, as I said, 2 of the 3 are probably on the way, and the check is on the way. They should be here within a few weeks. And the last one, Megan thought she'd be here this week. So we would start spending this money right away. Basically. These presenters are already booked and they're coming. If for some reason the funding wasn't there, we would be looking for Friends of the Library funding to help bring them in.
Okay, well, here's that annual mission statement review.
So right, this came up when the board was doing its self-evaluation, and it's not the first time that it's come up, that it is part of the kind of rubric that the state library uses, that it says, do you review your mission statement annually? And it's not something that JMRL has done. The current mission and values were adopted in 2019. And it was a board and staff collaborative process. There was a pizza party that staff came in and put ideas on the board, and everybody's fairly happy with it as it is. And again, it is my opinion that the library board probably doesn't want to change its mission on an annual basis. You know, it should be fairly consistent, but it occurred to the board, I think, in the process of doing the self-evaluation, that it would be not a bad idea to annually review this. So here's an opportunity for the board to review the mission values.
I'll just have one piece of color to the date that you showed at the bottom is there because this is a policy, and so the policy committee reviews it every 10 years as part of its regular 10-year review schedule. So that was the event that David talked about, was we actually said, hey, let's revisit this from scratch and go from first principles and build it back up. So that's in place at a committee level with that frequency.
And there were substantial changes made at the time, like all these values were added.
Yeah, you're right.
It used to be just a 2-sentence mission
It
statement.
was more than 2, so it kind of kept creeping longer and longer. And we said, well, we can make values instead, and that gives us space to really articulate some things.
Well, I think the idea with this exercise is not that we change it necessarily, but that we just make sure that we look at
Sort
it.
of have eyes
And
on
then
it,
you can
yeah.
say next year on your self-evaluation that you
That we
looked
looked
at it
at
in the last 12 months.
Of course, I don't, if there are structural issues or this board wants to change the mission of the library, then that's probably a bigger discussion than this 5-minute agenda item. But if that's something that needs to happen, then it can happen. I think they're pretty solid.
Looks good to me.
You just have to look at it.
Right.
You don't have to do anything, just look at it. Okay, fiscal year 27 board and budget schedule discussion.
Okay, this is tiny. So this is different from the library closures that you just voted on. This is when the board is going to meet and where and what are the annual things that need to happen at certain cycles. So I put this together for the board every spring. The board looks at it. Again, this is not a policy. You could vote or not vote, it doesn't matter, but here's what will go out to the public to say, here's where the meetings are and here's what's going to happen on them. So my only comments about it are that there are no Monday closed holidays on the fourth Mondays of the month for the next fiscal year, which is rare. So it really is a very set every fourth Monday of the month next year, which I don't remember a schedule that actually fell that way. I did leave Thanksgiving as Thanksgiving week for a couple reasons. So this year you met the week before.
I'm on vacation the week before.
Rather than the week of. Brandy was on vacation the week before. Some other board members are sometimes gone during the week of Thanksgiving, which is understandable. But traditionally, the board has had it during the week of Thanksgiving. It's a little bit difficult to move it up because that is the meeting at which the budget is adjusted, and taking a week of prep time away is a little difficult in the fall just because there are so many different steps that the budgeting needs to go through between the behind the scenes kind of staff putting together the reports and then the personnel committee's involvement and the budget committee's involvement. It just gets very compressed in the fall. So this is certainly the board's decision to make. If you say, well, we'd rather meet a week early, then certainly that can shift there. Christmas also sometimes gets moved depending on what day Christmas is. So this year, the 25th is on a Friday. So meeting the Monday afterwards is what is in this proposal here, be December 28th. I think meeting the week of Christmas, which would be early, wouldn't really work for anybody because the library is going to be closed 3 of those days. So this proposal has every fourth Monday for the entirety of the fiscal year, which there's scratches an itch in my brain. And the board has been doing the traveling board meetings, keeping the February, March, and April ones, going from Louisa in February to Green in March to April in Nelson. And then there have been 2 other meetings in which the board has rotated between the 4 other branches. So every 2 years, the board will get to every branch. And next year, they're scheduled for November at the Central Library and then May at the Scottsville Library.
I thought one of our things was we were to meet in every library every year.
This is the way the board has done it. So it has been to meet at 6 of the 8 every year and to meet at all 8 over a 2-year span.
And that was recently changed a couple of years ago because we used to only do those other libraries once every 4 years.
Used to take 4 years for the board to see every branch by going to meetings. So
Okay.
certainly that's also up to the board to decide if they want to shift. The only other thing that I realized is not in here that I will put in here is we'll add in April the which you just did, the oh, wait a minute. No, that is in there. The reviews the 5-year plan and mission statement. So that got added. The one thing that did not get added that the board asked me about recently was a annual employee handbook endorsement, or at least popping it open for the board to say, here's what's changed since last year. So that didn't make it in here, but I will put it in the June, July before this goes up on the webpage. So I remember just a little late there. So
You have to bring the type size down a little bit in
Yeah.
order to fit.
I know that to get it, if it's on this document, it happens, because I'll check this when I'm putting the agenda together with. Sure.
To that note, I think this document is really useful for that reason and just to orient everyone to our kind of annual cadence. Is there any, and this is, we've just been working on the governance documents. Is it written down anywhere that this document gets created or reviewed or generated? I would probably put one bullet in just for a policy committee note in that governance document, that I think this is something that is useful to maintain.
It's a good idea.
I appreciate you adding the policy committee meetings too. That's helpful.
That was your suggestion.
Just patting herself on the back.
Help on the back, don't break your arm.
Consistent.
So to add a bullet point, this is really a policy committee.
Yeah.
Add a bullet point to that governance doc
Yeah, that we're gonna do that.
about the annual board meeting and budgets. Does the board want to discuss or make any changes to that general schedule, especially around Thanksgiving or Christmas?
And I think we should leave the meeting and the week of Thanksgiving and just try and remind everybody that we will need a quorum because that's an important meeting.
Yeah.
There may be quite a bit of remote participation, I would think, that week. Not that I'm speaking for myself, of course.
I will do my best to make sure I am present, but I will be getting off a cruise ship the day before. So,
Who knows?
and it is a iffy time of year to be cruising, but I told David I will be remote at least.
But I think your point, David, that this is one of the few years ever to have.
I can't remember a year where there were no Monday disruptions.
I think we ought to encourage that.
I like it. It makes me happy, Tony. Okay, then I will make that one change that I described, which is adding the endorsement of the handbook to it. And then we will post this up on the Board of Trustees webpage. I'll share it with you all when I make that edit, and we'll post it as we get closer to the new fiscal year. I'll talk to Sarah. Maybe we can post both of them. Sometimes we do 2 years, this year and next year.
Library director's report.
Okay. Sort of make change.
Hopefully you'll know what change it is.
Something for the man in me.
Joke. Okay, what do I have to report on to you all? So I wanted to thank your president, Alita Childs, and Sylvia Elder from the Charlottesville Albemarle NAACP for serving as the scholarship committee yet again for the annual internship scholarship. We had 11 applications this year, which is the most I've ever seen. All were extremely qualified. The final choice was unanimous. Zahara Kala, a senior at Charlottesville High School, heading to Fordham University in the fall, is going to be interning at JMRL this summer. On that note, for the first time in a while, there is a second internship happening concurrently at the Louisa County Library. The JMRL is participating in the Louisa County High School Apprenticeship Program this summer. We received a grant the board approved last June, so it's been a while. It took till summertime to make it happen, to fund this program. And the Louisa County Library summer intern this year is going to be Lillian Hawley. So 2 new faces helping JMRL this summer. We didn't have a agenda item for today, but I did want to touch base on the fine-free status and what the update is for the library board on progress. I can make a full report in May and June. Most of the staff work to date has been, since the board voted to make this change next fiscal year last fall, has been on preparing for the financial impact of this change in fiscal year 27. So the work has been like a budgetary work. The Budget Finance Committee this week is going to be discussing a potential motion for the board to set the first domino of the 3-year phase-in plan that staff gave to you all for your May meeting. So there'll be some discussion there. If you recall, the current plan is to replace the roughly $100,000. It's somewhere between $90,000 and $100,000. It's trending down over time in fine revenue. Year 1, which will be fiscal year 27, half of that from JMRL's fund balance. a quarter of it from the Friends Endowment, and a quarter of it from state aid. So then that will slowly, over the next 2 years, year 2, it will be a third, a third, a third from the fund balance, the Friends and state aid. And then in year 3, it will be entirely from the Friends Endowment and from state aid. And then we'll start to plan, we'll have 3 years of data about how to plan for that moving forward. So the Budget Finance Committee is going to be discussing that this week, and there'll be some full board discussion about a motion for moving some money now to get ready for that. The next phase of work on this is to prepare the technical end. Jeremy Lundgren is going to get started getting up to speed on the changes that need to happen. And then the final phase is preparing information for staff and the public to communicate this change, and for you all as well, including providing reasoning and describing the metrics that the Fines and Fees Working Group developed last summer, or last year, I should say, anticipating a late May, June push for that information to coincide with summer reading information that's going out. So, yeah, please.
You have a question?
Well, just remind me first what the go live date is that we agreed on. Is it
July 1.
1st? Okay. Okay, so we're getting close as far as this messaging and so forth. And then you mentioned the metric. Funny, I was going to ask about our plan. So we did identify some metrics that we've been tracking and we'll continue to track. What just proceed? How and when will or should those be presented or reviewed?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Is it a slide on the screen every 3 months, or is it just something, I don't know.
I could present a baseline, here's what the last year or the year to date has looked like, either in May or June, for the board to see, here's what we're starting at.
Yeah.
And keep in mind that this year has also been a disruption to patterns because of automatic renewals.
Right.
We've seen a tremendous decrease in fine revenue because of that.
Right.
This year. And it's been very popular and very successful, but we're going through kind of 2 years of our baseline data changing.
Right.
But it could be a board presentation by me.
So there could be a before and after just on which is, we didn't establish a baseline very soon before the automatic renewal, but there could at least be some kind of before and after.
Yeah, I think it's more like this year.
Yeah.
It's all in an automatic renewal environment.
And the other observation I would have, it's my understanding that there's certainly a seasonality to our baseline demands anyway, so you wouldn't want to compare January with July. You kind of need to look at the whole year anyways.
Yeah, I think I would agree.
Update of sorts and.
So is this just throwing it out to the table? Is this something first of all, are we interested in looking at it as a board ever? Would it be a 1-year frequency?
Not exactly, because obviously we're going from
Yeah.
90,000 or whatever it was to 0. And so the money has to come from something else.
What I'm referring to is the working group had identified and presented to the board 5 specific metrics, and I couldn't name them all off the top of my head, but we started tracking them in advance so that we could understand a baseline, which is what David's talking about.
So I'm thinking back to not the money, but
It's not
to
the financials.
it's whether or not books come back
Yeah,
in timely manner.
it's our certainly,
Right.
how has this,
Thank you. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
what metrics are we talking
That's
about?
something that I'd be much more interested in, because we're gonna find money somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff, right?
just to restate, the goal was how has this policy change impacted our service? Because ultimately that's what we're delivering is service.
People return books still.
So maybe it would be useful for either next month or the month after for me to re-present, here's what we said we were going to collect and show what we have to date. And then the board can discuss a timeline for, when do we want to kind of make that available? How do we want to make that available?
Sounds great. Yeah.
So next one, I was just looking at them actually because we're doing this every spring. Each branch closes one at a time and has a training day, and I'm going to go to a few of them and talk to library staff about this, and I'll be presenting to them on here's what we've collected and here's what it is, and it's very interesting about what the baseline is now.
Yeah.
So it's hold times.
Yeah, it's hold times. It's something called there's a metric that we use for the overall collection called turnover rate.
Mhm.
There's the number of blocked cards we have, number of new cards we're making, and average time for materials to be returned on time. Those are the 5 basic things that we've been collecting on a monthly basis. The turnover rate is actually an annual stat. anyway, so.
I would think that it might be worthwhile to think about if you're creating new materials when you go out to sort of get people interested in getting a library card, is putting Find Free Library like right at the top
Yeah.
and see if that makes an impact. Because if people have been scared away from using the library because they feel that there's going to be a fine.
Yeah,
Even though you don't charge them for children, it's just maybe
Right, yeah.
worth reiterating, like.
yeah, we're gonna have to reprint all of our kind of welcome information, which we've been preparing for this for a while, so the language has gotten vaguer.
And I'm sure you were
and vaguer.
saying like, by the way, if you hold a book this long,
Yeah.
this is what it costs you.
And as a reminder, there are, we're still gonna charge for lost and damaged material, so if somebody doesn't bring something back, or if they damage a material, then they will still have to. And I believe we discussed still charging for interlibrary loans because JMRL owes that money to another institution, and potentially left the door open for the bestseller collections, which don't allow holds and are just lucky day collections. You show up and that's what's there, and they only go out for 1 week. Apparently, potentially also still charging overdue funds for that.
I don't know if they would come back in 7 days if you didn't charge. And I'm speaking for myself when I do that.
Yeah, there's holds on.
I'm sorry, say that again.
And there'll be holds on cards for. I don't know.
Oh, right, and right, like right, if your materials are X amount of days overdue, you won't be able to check out any material. Is that the same thing you're
No,
reading?
I was thinking, the books.
If the
that are
book cannot
holding,
automatically
they're not
renew.
automatically- If somebody else has that, yeah, and so
So-
if you're holding on to them, don't they still get a fine? Or do they?
No, if they
don't?
bring them back, they won't have a fine.
No, I mean, if they're due, say, on the 1st, and somebody has a hold on it,
Mhm.
but they don't bring it back until the 10th,
Mhm.
then they have to, they're not.
There won't be no fines.
Fine.
They'll just get lots of nasty grams and say, Alita, please bring back the book because
We know you have it.
Mike's waiting for it. If you damaged it, you do.
In terms of
Felix, can you give me her email address?
in terms of the messaging, that's gonna have to be
Connect each other on social. She's got your book. Just ask her for it. I'm kidding.
there's gonna have to be some prep for all staff to be ready to talk about this, and for the people that, I think for most of the library users, it's gonna be like, oh, okay, great. And for some people, they'll say, oh, that's fantastic, I love that idea. And then some people are gonna be very vocally concerned that they're not gonna get the
Their
material that they
material.
want.
Mhm.
So there's gonna have to be, and staff we've been talking about this since the board started talking about it, so they're aware this is happening, but they're gonna have to get ready for the reality of people coming up to frontline staff and talking about it. So having materials that kind of explain some of this, I think will be useful.
I had a couple of related questions. One is there a kind of a routine way of getting customer satisfaction data or feedback, like on an annual basis or whatever, that where thoughts about this would naturally feed in? So
We don't have a
Survey, I thought that was put up.
by.
I thought we would do surveys in the past that we would put up like on Facebook and stuff to get people's feedback.
Usually tied to the 5 years.
Generally tied to the strategic planning, which is
Did one.
5 years.
Yeah, we did one for the strategic plan, but
We don't have, so we have an open-ended, send us feedback, but we don't have an annual soliciting of feedback, but, that could be something that's specifically tied to this or to other initiatives.
And my related question was just like in talking about the rollout of this of the kind of no fines, is there a plan to actively solicit feedback, like in the sort of 1 to 3 month range after the rollout, which to me seems like it would be a good opportunity to feed back into the media of like, here's how it's been received, and to kind of take control of that story rather than just seeing if anything
That
happens.
hasn't been discussed, but it's a good idea.
Yeah.
been waiting for months. I'm convinced it's because they're fine for.
Well, I think we're gonna have good data. I'm reasonably sure the data is gonna show, like, if any of those metrics move, I don't think it's gonna be dramatic just because of the volume of material. But you can see now, like, what the patterns are, and they're pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Users are pretty consistent about when they bring things back. They're either late or early.
Well, also you have the shift to digital, which is which is why it's less of an issue now. So if you don't return your item, it just takes it back, so.
So I've been planning on a May continuing ed. Megan Smead has agreed to come and do a continuing ed about summer reading prep and like everything that goes into how that works. Alita, do we think we can do both these things, a continuing ed from staff, but then also some of that I can show, here's the data that we're looking at now. It doesn't have to be, I just feel like it might lead to more discussion. Do you think that there's time for that? Because it's also my evaluation.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's a busy month in there.
Just put it off one more.
Well, we'll look either in May.
It also has the budget finalization.
That's pretty, as long as nothing
Major comes out.
major happens, but at this point, the train has left the station there. Okay, I will prepare some information for the board, and then Alita and I will talk about which agenda makes the most sense. And the only other thing I had to report, I shared with you all the first weekend information from the Friends book sale. But they did get final numbers in. It was another record-breaking sale, $187,641 collected. Special thanks to Peter Mano and Austin Connor, the book sale manager and staff, for making this happen. And extra special thanks to all the amazing Friends volunteers who worked so hard. You see them there during the sale for 10 days, working, 10, 12-hour days. But it's really a year-long commitment for a lot of those volunteers that spend, hours every week kind of prepping for this moment and then rolling it all out in such an organized fashion. It continues to be the envy of every library system in Virginia. It's really a special event. So thank you to our friends. Isn't it? It's like an eye popping. And that's all I have to report.
Well, I guess you don't have any questions because we've been asking questions. Okay, let's see, other matters. Oh, I must have been in the wrong place.
Just for the board to be thinking about, you will need to put together a nominating committee
Oh, yeah, that's.
so that you can have a vote in June on officers for next year. You need to have in June, here are the candidates or any candidates from the floor, and have a vote so that by the end of that meeting, you know who your officers are for next fiscal year. So generally that happens around now, between now and May.
So we have to establish a nominating committee. Just call it. Would you like to be on that?
It is the board president's prerogative to create committees, and it's not.
Any other thing other than the nominating committee? Okay. Future items? With the ones that we just talked.
There's going to be a technology committee report, right? Because we're meeting next week, and a budget finance committee report because we're meeting on Wednesday. Need a nominating committee. It is time for the closed session for my annual evaluation in May. So I'll send the board an update on the goals that were set for me last spring. You don't have it in hand. That does get, if you're going to be remotely participating in that meeting, let Alita and I know right away, because it involves setting up 2 different Zoom meetings, the one for the public and then one that's a closed session. We keep the public one running so the public can see you're still in session. Then the board members that are remotely participating will have to leave that one, join a second one, and then leave it and come back in order to close the business meeting. It just gets complicated.
Where are we next?
I believe we are.
Gordon Avenue
Yeah.
on the 18th.
And do I recall that there's usually a written survey that goes out for a written evaluation?
Yeah, is that right? I think there is, and I think Krista usually works with the board president, and we use SurveyMonkey similar to the self-eval. So we'll set that up, and then the results will go to Krista, and she'll send them to Alita. Thank you for reminding. I'd forgotten about that. It is only 3 weeks from today, though, because of Memorial Day, so it's a tight turnaround.
So not our imagination that we're meeting an awful lot.
Every month.
Or every 3 weeks.
No, it still looks, sometimes it's a little
Sometimes
closer,
it's twice in the
and
same
other
week.
times it might be 5
I
weeks.
think this one has been 5 weeks since the last meeting, right? So it kind of, it's usually.
The fact that we did 2 meeting minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And that's because half of us were virtual. It was 5 weeks.
Do we have anything else? That's good. If I hear anybody. Well, I'm calling for the adjournment.
I move that we adjourn.
Oh, in less than an hour.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wow.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. That was.
To adjourning.
Oh, if you wanted to. Sure.